I can't stay on very long. I'm tending the fire, and it's at a spot where I'll have to deal with it here soon and put another log on the fire. I just wanted to check in. I know a lot of you's been worried about me, the weather. Uh, for once in the history of our area, our elevation played into our favor, and a lot of the moisture had to be dumped before it could climb the mountains. And so we got a very light ice mixture, and we got a few inches, I don't know, 3, 4 inches snow. And then immediately the ice kicked in and just kind of patted it down and made it look ugly. It's just an ugly snow, y'all. And then we had some ice last night, a small layer of ice. It wasn't a lot. It was enough to make the pine trees unhappy, but not a lot, to really cause any true issues. And we've got another little small clip of moisture coming through in the next few minutes. But most of it that's on the leading edge of it is flurries and sleet. So I'm not super worried about what's left to come through tonight. Just the temps the next few nights are going to be with the wind chill well below zero for us. And so it's just a matter of keeping your house warm now. And uh, which with our wood stove is an easy thing to do. I actually get it too hot in here sometimes. So, um, hello, Janae. Hello, Patricia. It's been a wild few days now. When you don't hear from me during these weather things, it's because I keep the fire all night and then I sleep during the day. And David, they didn't let him work today. I'm thankful for that because the drive-in, there's still too much ice, even though he used to be on the rescue squad and he knows how to do all this. I just would have preferred him not having to be out with the temps going to be dropping late, and he works till like 7 or more every time he works, so he has to stay out fairly late on these cold nights. So he's actually been in the fur shed and trying to get some stuff done in there today. It was warm enough to where he could get the fur shed nice and warm with his stove in there and work in there today. The next few days, I don't know. It's going to be so cold. I don't know what he's going to be able to do. I don't have a clue. I finished one baby blanket and I've started another, so I'm doing pretty good, staying busy. Um, this is the last baby blanket I have to do, and then I've got one more thing for the baby shower I've got to make. So I've just been watching the news and trying to keep up on what's going on. And if you all do not watch Matt Morse, Morse, Matt Morse TV, you should go watch the live he did earlier today. And they had a lawyer kind of walk people through what occurred in Minneapolis yesterday. And y'all, when I say that I'm so tired of this bullcrap, I'm so tired of this bullcrap. I'm so tired of watching a few thousand petty people that get bussed around the nation whine so that millions have to be kept in this limbo state. It makes me so unhappy. It's not fair to our nation. It's not fair. And the thing is that people think that this has just occurred like ICE just moved in to work there. ICE has always worked in these cities, these larger cities that have larger influx of criminals because of their sanctuary status. ICE has always been in there. Now they're in there in force now because they have to protect their own because the Minneapolis police will not work with anybody. But they were working fine in there. They had been arresting people for a long time, and nothing turned to be an issue until the fraud was uncovered. So if you think this is not a politically motivated event, I don't know how to help you see what's going on in the world today. It's really a sad situation. It's sad to think that there are people at home that are being taken advantage of emotionally so that they act in ill-informed manners to place themselves in harm's way to basically help politicians that don't care a crap for them. It's basically what's going on. And the fact that when they interviewed that, is it Preddy or Pet? I don't know, whatever his last name was. When they interviewed his parents had to say, we had this talk with him a couple of weeks ago that if he wanted to protest, that was fine, but to not do anything stupid. When do you have to tell a 37-year-old man as a mother, don't be stupid? Hey, listen, when my kid turned 18, I said, I got you grown. You're now not my liability, you're your own. So when you do something stupid, it's going to be on your head, not mine. So be careful what you step into because mama ain't going to be there to backfall on. See you in court. I'm going to ask for the hardest punishment possible so I don't see you there again. That is how I prepped my children. I don't see what's so difficult about that. I honestly don't. You know, some parents are like, how could you say that? I said that because that is what society expects of my child, and that's what I expect of my child, to live safely within society. I don't expect them to be a pushover, but I certainly do expect them to think before they act. And my kids are, you know, pushing like the 27-ish area, and I wouldn't say that to them today. If I had to have that talk to them today, you might as well turn them over my knee and bust their butt. And I'm sorry, but I raised them, and they're their own people now. And if they're going to be stupid, they're going to be stupid. I've seen a lot of stupidity out of my children, a lot of things that irritate the crap out of me. For the most part, they're good, well-adjusted, positive members of society. They can be little assholes, but they do pretty good. But I would never have that discussion with my child. Why? Because I would have had it when they were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then it would have stopped. Because surely I would have done my job, right? Right, parents? Surely I would have done my job. And this is not to throw shade at the parents. This is to say we have an issue in this nation where we're letting our children be led by the nose by their emotions. And they're growing up with it so ingrained that we cannot control them. And guess what? This is a political activity. This is what they do when they start to change the climate of a nation. This is what they do. You look at any kind of overthrow of anything. This is what they do. What the lady that was it a lady or man that was detained the other day and bit the border controls or ICE agent's finger off? Seriously, we're rabid animals now. Seriously. And the moment last night, I went on. I tried to talk a lot of common sense into these people that were getting irate about that shooting, and I was like, "Hey, listen, whether that officer got the gun off of him or not, which it looks like he did, when they a legal forensic guy had them basically review the footage in slow-mo, the officer got the gun off of him and only had a handle on the butt of the gun. But when you get control of that weapon, you turn it away from everyone involved immediately, because number one, you don't want anyone shot with an accidental discharge, and you don't want anyone there to bump the gun, cause anything else, or it to be grabbed and used against you again. So you spin away and you take it away immediately. And thank God that officer did, because it, from what I watched, was a discharge. And if y'all know anything about SIGs, I've never owned a SIG. I will not own a SIG. Why do I not own SIGs? Because they are notorious for discharge, where people have bumped them in the holster and shot their leg. SIGs are notorious for these accidental discharges. It's just, if you're a gun owner, you know that. And like I don't want to own a SIG. I don't want to own a Beretta. I don't really care for Tauruses. I'm a Smith & Wesson girl, pretty much through and through for handguns. So it was, it looks like it was the guy's gun discharged. He had that was like a $2,000 gun with the high capacity magazines that he had. But everybody's like, well, he had a legal right to carry. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Because he left his home without the paperwork and without identification, which negates his ability to carry. Anytime you carry your weapon, whether you've got a concealed carry or not, you must have your paperwork and your ID on you. So if you've got a concealed carry, you better have that permit paperwork on you. You better have your ID on you to verify who you are. Otherwise, you're not legal. Any gun owner knows this. Also, any gun owner will tell you, if you're going to a high emotion area and you don't want to get in trouble, you probably don't need to go where you don't need to take your gun. I don't know of any gun owner that would behave that way, because they train you and drill it into you when you want to carry conceal, that if you come in contact with law enforcement, you basically obey every command. You immediately immediately tell them you have a gun on you. And then when they secure the gun, you immediately show your paperwork. You comply at all times. And every gun owner takes that very, 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 very seriously, because we don't want our rights trampled on. So we have to make sure that we are, plumb in everything to be able to pack that weapon. So it's a sad situation. Well, I went on last night, and I'm sure that we'll have more trolls on this channel, because there are a few places people were getting super emotional, and I was like, hey, yo, this is not emotional. He interfered in law enforcement's job. You don't interfere, which made him a concern. The fact that he had a gun on and he didn't immediately voice that made him a bigger concern. And then when he further engaged and became violent, that made him an issue, and they had to detain him. And when he resisted detainment, that made him the biggest issue on the block at that moment, especially when they noticed he had the gun. From the time that the guy yelled gun to the guy when the guy spun around and it accidentally discharged was about 1 second. I don't know how 4 people that are not connected together at the brainstem can all know in less than a second that the gun was removed, because it takes a few minutes for everybody there, especially with the daggum whistles being blown. I hate them whistles. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. They only do that to confuse the whole scenario that everybody's in and muddy the water, basically. I hear David coming in. So if anybody wants to watch what actually occurred and a legal breakdown, you can go to Matt Morse TV, MORSE, Matt Morse TV. He did a live earlier. He went through everything. They also have unlocked their Signal chats, and so they're seeing who all is invested in this act of terrorism in Minneapolis. And it, surprise, surprise, people, allegedly they have county officials in these chats. They have people that have broken in to misuse the license plate registry to identify people, so they know who to tell and who not to tell, and who's this, who's that. And it's really, it looks like a communist regime taking over. And, a lot of them, bless their hearts, are just people LARPing that think this is neat. They don't understand the consequences. But at the root base of this, there are people that are truly trying to take over a nation. And I wonder when people are going to catch on. I don't know. But people are like, well, don't you have sympathy? Yeah, I have sympathy that somebody was stupid and lost their life. It does harm me emotionally when I think about grown people that get up and do stupid things that cost them their life. It does. It hurts me for about 2 seconds, because I can't expend my emotions to a useless area right now. My emotions have to be kept under wraps, and only where they're going to be, truly profitable for me. Will you push the stove in, please? It just went poof. I had flames going up to the top, and then it went poof. No. Luna has been a booger all day today. So I wanted to pop in and just tell you that it's very, if you watch his live from earlier, every question you have will be answered. Yeah, I'm so tired. Like, people, I'm so, and if you go and you start, if you get on the normal message boards that aren't like activist field and super left leaning, you'll hear a lot of people being like, I want my city back. I want my home place back. I want town to chill out. I don't want to have to worry about going into town and running into these people, because they're basically, anyone that comes into their area that they're patrolling, which is basically the entire city, they have so many people that are following. They call those in. Those are the traffic people. They call those into the license plate people. They say who these people are. They broke into the license plate registry, and they dispense. They have a whole dispatch built on Signal, and luckily this man has infiltrated it and took like 2 or 3 days of videos, and he has the names and all everything that they're doing, so that we can start to take this apart and find out who really is causing an issue. Hello, everybody. Is that a fairly new person? Howdy, howdy. So I can't stay on very long. I've got to deal with this fire that's decided it didn't want to burn. It was burning great when I sat down, and then it went poof the moment I started talking. But we've got some wind coming through, so we might have had some wind down the chimney. But it's interesting. It's interesting when now that all the things they said they weren't doing, that now that they've gotten into this Signal chat and they're finding out, allegedly a lot of Tim Walls's campaign staff are in the Signal chat helping to run this interference and all of this garbage. So it's really what I, just to state the obvious horrible thing for me, is it's really sad to see a governor and a mayor basically offer up their people a sacrificial lamb so that they can get their butts out of trouble. They're just wanting a negotiating tactic, y'all. That's all there is. They just want out of this fraud crap. They want a negotiating tactic. They want a little leverage. So they've robbed the people that they know they can rob because they're unstable at best on a good day. And they know how to manipulate this faction. And it's sad to see it occur in our nation. There are a lot of people that want to act on emotions and, you know, try to scream at people that are just trying to be logic. And I looked at every video, and my determination from it was, if that was his gun, which it seems like it was, they removed, there was literally 1 second, because that was slow down that we were all watching. I watched, it was 1 second. 4 people can't in 1 second all know the same thing. It takes a while to process, especially all that turmoil and noise. But even then, the man was still resisting. And all they need is for any officer there to have, you know, a reasonable suspicion that their life's in danger. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be reasonable, which was still ongoing as he was resisting. So, but the sad thing is the man's own gun discharged, which those guns are known for that. I'm just going to say they're known for that. But I mean, that man was walking around hot loaded and intervening in officials' duties, and just what did he anticipate? And the fact that his parents were on national television and said we had to have that talk with him last week. A 37-year-old, listen, that's just 10 years younger than me. Logic. I'll come in there and fix it. So, well, my fire's been about how I just wanted to check in and let y'all know what's going on. Expect trolls, because anybody that's trying to have any kind of logical or rational conversation is going to have trolls come in. I even had some guy said I was a threat to live because of my viewpoint, and I thought, no, because people that want their liberty also know that we have to have law. You know, one relies on the other. You know, so I'm just looking at things from a perspective. Oh, I'm looking at it from several perspectives. Look at it from my perspective, then I try to look at it from a legal perspective, then I try to look at it from their perspective, and then I look at it from a judicial component. And I kind of see, you know, the fact that I sat in courtrooms and watched this crap be, you know, mediated for most of my adult career kind of lends me to understand how they're going to view it. But I will say that one time I disagreed with my judge was when he convicted a guy of murder, when a guy had broken into his home, assaulted his grandchildren, and threatened to kill him, and pulled a knife to do so, and the guy had to shoot in self-defense, and sadly the man passed away. I did the pre-sentence and all that, ended up supervising that man for the state. The judge, even though it was clearly self-defense, and the guy had been assaulted by this young man before, and there was a record of behavior, and the young man was not supposed to be there, he still convicted the man. He played it down really, you know, to a lesser charge, but he was still convicted. And the reason he convicted, he said, because, and the guy was out checking his fence lines on his property. He had a bunch of acreage. He was checking fence lines. It was middle of summer, copperheads, snakes, roaming, wild hogs, everything. He had kept a little 22 pistol on his hip to go out and check his fence lines. He had no reason not to. He was on his own property and had every right to carry that gun. And when he heard the screams, he ran back home. He still negotiated with that man for 20 minutes before he had to shoot. He tried to negotiate with that man for 20 minutes while that man was throwing children through the home and trying to assault people. He tried to talk him down and de-escalate him. And it wasn't until the man pulled a knife and basically said, "Here I come, you know, I'm going to kill you," that he had to And he said, I didn't even get to aim. He said, I hipped my gun because he was coming at me so fast. And I was like, had it been me, I probably wouldn't give the man 20 minutes. Sorry, you come in my house, you start throwing people. Um, I'm not that kind, I don't guess. I don't know. Um, but the judge said, well, you had been out on your property and had a gun on your hip. I just have to deduce that you were looking for trouble. And I disagree with my judge. And we bumped heads on that for a long time. And several months later, he came back and he said, yeah, that was a bad call on my behalf. I said, yeah, it was. And so he ended up reducing his sentence, and they had to come back and do like a PCR and get a reduction and all this crap. And I'm glad that my judge had the wherewithal to come back on that and go for a PCR and get a reduction. I'm glad, because it was the right thing to do in that instance. There's a fine line of how you behave when you have a weapon, and it's very intently marked down in black and white in all the laws of your area, and you have to read it. Minnesota does have a statute where if you have a concealed carry, you must have your carry permit and your ID on you at all times. If you do not, it negates your legal ability to carry. You can carry, I believe there's an open carry too, but you have to have ID on you at all times. So if you don't have ID, it negates your ability to carry. It's just these small little things that you need to know. And if you are not, if you, as a gun owner, if you're, and anybody can, anybody that's able to practice Second Amendment, go right ahead, but educate yourself and know what you're doing. Because if you don't understand the law, then you are going to fudge it up to the rest of us that are legal gun owners and carriers. You're going to mess it up for everybody else. So know the law, know your area's laws. Each state has a little bit of finesse, but for the most part, you can get some states can open carry. Tennessee can open carry. It has to be present and open and showing. Can't hide it in any way. You just have to have your ID. You can get a concealed carry permit. You have to have your permit and your ID on you at all times. When you have a gun on you, that makes you legal to carry. Most states pretty much run on that same mandate. Some of them tweak and finesse some stuff, but pretty much that's how it goes. But if you don't understand what's expected of you as a gun owner in high emotional situations like this, probably not a good idea to own a weapon, because they will train you to back away, de-escalate, don't engage, go away, don't get in these situations. Like, if I was passionate about something and wanted to go for some kind of circle where I was going to be around like-minded people, but I knew it might be high emotion, I wouldn't bring a gun. Because while I know I can contain myself and my emotions, I don't know about everyone else there. And so I would just err on the side of caution. I certainly wouldn't have one chambered and ready to go if you're supposed to be in friendly territory. But the high capacity magazines, it's not such a big thing. I don't mind that so much. But it is really odd to see someone pack more than just, one magazine for their handgun. It's just, I don't know, just a lot of stuff kind of And this was not like an idiot. He was apparently a nurse that worked in an ICU unit. How sad. It's very sad. But also it shows the level of propaganda to reach people that are educated, that just may not have the common sense a lot of people have. It's very sad. Well, that's why I'm saying this. I'm so glad they got into that signal chat so they can identify some of these people, so that we can start understanding who is creating this scenario, so we can start to understand how they are creating this wave of emotional propaganda to basically facilitate their own little, coordinated attack on the city. Because mind you, remember this, ICE had been there for a long time. They've worked in coordination with this city for years and years and years. Never had an issue until a fraud was found. Then it became an issue. I'm just, for me, I'm not going to wake up and allow a governor and a mayor to emotionally manipulate me to be a sacrificial lamb to get them out of trouble so they have a negotiating tool. This not what I woke up for today. Sorry. And I wish more people would understand that. And at the end of the day, even if you have something very worthy of being said and heard, if you don't say it in the right manner, it's not going to have the appropriate impact. So you have to be careful with your behavior and your energy and all that jazz. So, but it's very interesting what they're uncovering. Go watch the Matt Morse TV episode. The lawyer who analyzes the forensic, he had a forensic team go through it as if he was, going to try to defend or convict this man. And he said the gun discharged. And I remember my brother, he went through a phase where he liked handguns. We're mostly a rifle family. I'm just gonna say it. We're mostly a rifle. We mostly hunt. But it's good to have a handgun every now and again. But we're mostly a rifle family. But my brother went through a handgun phase when we were young, and he was becoming his own person and had young children. He just wanted a handgun, and he got into a big thing about having certain types of handguns. And I just know he would never have bought one of those SIGs because they do have a lot of issues. To be such an expensive weapon, they have a lot of issues. And one of the biggest issues are the accidental discharges that are noted. Now, the company says that they have a drop-proof rating, but there has been people report that they bumped them on the holster and shot them in the leg. And you can actually go and look up some of these things online because people do report these issues. So you can go and research that as well. But I just always knew to avoid that. There were certain things you just did not buy. There's certain things that have an issue with jamming and mucking up. There's certain things that have faulty discharges. And you just, when you own a lot of guns, you hear these things. You know these things. They can't legally bust into homes unless someone is, they know someone's hiding in there, or someone in that home basically fires upon them or attacks them. Then they have the ability to go into the home. And that's basically police protocol for everyone across the board. So a lot of this is people just now looking into laws that they didn't know existed, and they find them in these high emotional times, and they think it was just created. But if you had looked at these things when you're not super emotional, you would see them in a different light, know that they've been there forever. They just don't have to be acted upon. Now, why are they acted upon now? Well, because the stakes have been raised, and these people that are trying to create this as propaganda are using these tiny, not well-known laws to start to say, well, did you know they can do that now? And no, it was on the books for years. It just, we hadn't been in the scenario where it was necessary. We've not had such a high number of criminal illegals in the country that need to be arrested. I mean, if you go through the faces and the paperwork of most of them that are being arrested, like 5 out of 10 are want for sodomy on youth. I'm sorry, you want to protect those people? I do not. I can't sit there and justify saving somebody that is harming 5 people in return. That's my brain doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So no, if you have charges that are against the law, and especially against a child, I want you behind bars. You're safer behind bars. But this is why it's good to know your law in your state. I mean, go read the annotated code for your state, and then go read the federal code. And to be quite honest, Tim Walz and that Mayor Frey, how do you say his name? I don't know. He has so much hair gel in. He reminds me of Joel Osteen, which sends me on edge anyway. But under that, what is it? 10, Section 8 of the federal code. They should already have been arrested. And I have to pull that up and I'll post it so you know what I'm talking about. But basically trying to weaponize their city and weaponize their people and the words that they've been saying, it violates the federal code that the states have to abide by. And it's just like, it's not good. It's not good. So, but I'm just saying, if you wake up and your governor and your mayor are, spitballing ways you can intervene legally, probably not people you need to listen to, because intervening legally are oxymoronic. They don't go together. They basically cancel each other out. So, if you see somebody getting arrested, the best thing you can do is back away, stay a safe distance, record if you want to record. I don't care. Be quiet so the officers can handle what they're doing and hear what the heck is going on. Don't create any more issues around the arrest, because then you become an issue. And then if you have an issue, report it to the sheriff's department, take it up at a city meeting, put it out there on social media, then take it up. But don't jump into the pile, because then you become a problem. And when you put yourself in the problem category, then bad things can occur. And so people need to wake up each morning and realize there's a very fine line between being a protester, which there's not really any protesters left, they're all rioters at this point, but being a protester and being a problem. And it really only takes a quarter second decision to become one or the other. So just be careful and know what you're doing. Oh, thank you, Sam. I'm glad you like it. I think, sadly, Henry, I think you're right. Yeah, we're pretty. But here's the good thing I want you to notice. When they schedule for that shutdown day, they actually, for days before that, bust people into Minneapolis. And so a lot of the people you see marching in Minneapolis are not from Minneapolis. So honestly, there may be 1,000 from Minneapolis participating. There's many more thousands they bust in. And so a lot of these people are people that just simply go around and this is all they do. They get carted around to be perpetual problems for our nation. So it looks like a lot of people, but a lot of people, they're taken from all over the country. They're professional agitators and they're thrown in there to do this. So a lot of people will go, I didn't know Minneapolis had such a group of people that was against this. Minneapolis does not. You have a few, but most of those people are not from Minneapolis. Most of those people can be identified, and they're all over the nation at probably 200 protests a year. It's all they do is get carted around, put up, paid to be a butthole. Okay, that's all they do. Or they train other people on how to be buttholes, because they have a whole training mechanism. They have a whole network. It's a whole. It looks like a communist regime takeover where they're training people in their backyard that they don't even mow. It's one of those scenarios. So it's just strange. But then it gives the perception that, oh gosh, we've got a lot of people that are against this. No, there are far more people that have a very based common sense view of this. But we don't want to get out there and put our noses in something and become part of the issue. We understand that that's adding fuel to the fire. And so we sit back and we wonder, how do we negate this? Well, we're going to have to start talking about it. We're going to have to, and we don't want to go out there and create more of an issue in the cities that are under basically attack right now. But we need to start talking about this. We need to start not being chased offline by these people. We need to not be threatened and shut down by these people. We need to be able to voice our concerns as well as just good citizens of this nation. But they are highly aggressive. They're highly coordinated. And you'd think, as much as they say they train people, they would be a little bit better behaved. But something's got to give in there, I guess. So that's where we are. Yeah, they do go after the people. That's why you see a lot of people in wheelchairs. You see a lot of people using their disability as a weapon against them, saying, oh, you hurt an elderly senior citizen on a cane, or you tipped a man in a wheelchair. They like to get those people out there. Sometimes they just act like they have disabilities. There was one guy that had been seen in a wheelchair, like during the 2020 things. He had been seen in a wheelchair at multiple rides, and then they found him like walking into a Starbucks. And so, a lot of this is just done for the 3-second clip that they can put on the internet to make you feel a certain way. And what do I say about feelings? When people want you to feel things, it's because they want control. So the bigger the emotion, the more the control they want. And that's why they get in people's feels, because as old as people are in this nation, what have we neglected the last couple, 3 decades? Everybody has mental illness, and nobody knows how to deal with their feelings. And so we basically approve of spastic behavior, and nobody's learned how to basically handle their emotions appropriately. So they hear one thing they don't like and they spiral out of control. And then you see them on TikTok with their wide eyes and, frothing at the mouth, screaming at somebody that they don't know about something they have no idea about, and addressing a law that they get completely bass-aggards. And at that point, at that height of elevation, there's really no way you can deal with those people. There's really no way you can deal with those people, because they're already left-brained and way up here. So, and they prey on people that are easily created into that category. That's why they go after the groups. The biggest population is the student population, because those kids, like I tell you, brain fart years are 18 to 24. If you look at a lot of the protesters, what age gap they're in, 18 to 24. They're just becoming adults. They think they have this power, but they don't understand the way the world works, and they don't understand basically what they are possibly creating for the future, because they don't understand. They haven't looked at the world correctly. Why? Because they've never been responsible for anyone but themselves. So people normally grow up when they have children, because then it creates a view of the world where you have to be a little bit more careful. You care about its longevity. You're more concerned about the behavior of society because you have a vested interest in it in the future. So a lot of these kids are 18 to 24, coming off of college campuses, newfound freedom, newfound adulthood, and they just don't know what to do with it. And they've been, polarized on these campuses by these teachers that are super, 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 super political, and bless their heart, they don't have a clue. Anytime I've ever gotten to know a college professor, they are really out of touch with society because they live in such a niche component. Like, they go to work, they still work with children, basically. They really never coordinate with any other professionals, and they hide out from town because they don't want to run into students in towns. They become a hermit, and, they kind of evolve these huge beliefs. And normally it's left-sided, because a lot of college professors, they never marry, they never have children. They make their whole life about that campus. And I noticed that because I went through 4 campuses in my whole college journey. And I noticed that at all campuses, that the higher and more esteemed the professor was, the less likely he was to be socially savvy. He was going to be a hermit and going to have some skewy perceptions about things. And I just came to expect that from the higher ranking professors. They were just, bless their hearts, they were odd. They were socially awkward. And I felt bad for them. What's going on with them? I honestly, the only reason I go on Facebook anymore is to make sure my dad is still kicking, because they don't check in like every day. Like, they have a very full life, and they've got a lot of stuff going on. So if I'm not down there, they won't check in with me. They just float through life. And so with this storm stuff, I've been going on because they're home, but they're handling, they're prepping, getting ready for some surgeries, and getting ready for some downtime. And then they've had this weather and the farm on top of that. So I kind of leave them alone, but I do open my Facebook Messenger to make sure my dad was, it'll say active 2 hours ago. Okay, dad's still kicking. That's about the max of that. And I have a couple people I talk to on Messenger. Other than that, I use the app to video call with my grandbabies. And that's about the only reason I have it, because I find Facebook to be such a fake place. I just don't care for it. It's just a place for people to poke and prod you, or, if you are one of those people that think you have to measure up to everybody else, that you just drive yourself crazy trying to measure up to everybody. And I'm just like, I don't really want to put myself in that. And it whether, it doesn't really affect me, but then I see other people, how it affects them, and I'm like, and it bothers me. And I'm like, I'm just not even going to go there. I just don't even want to know. I don't care. I'm a pretty low key person, and I'd rather, if I'm going to run into you, I want to run into you person to person to talk to you and see you, and or I'd rather not run into you at all, because I would rather have that face to face. I get more information from a face to face than I do on Facebook. So that's the way I am. I really don't care if I see you online. I don't, but I'll see you in public. That's how I want to see you. I want to interpersonally interact with you. That's great. But I don't want to hear about your vacation, or your new puppy dog, or your new Jimmy Choo shoes, or your new Michael Kors purse. Or I don't care. I don't care. I got my pocketbook at the Goodwill. It works just fine. Yeah, I use mine for like area events and to make sure my parents are cooking and to video call with my grandbabies. That's it. That's all I use it for. Because I'm just sick. I'm sick of the falseness on it. It's just. If I wanted, to still be dealing with plastic people, I would have kept my Barbies. I had Barbies. Now, granted, I put most of them in like the livestock trailers and towed the Barbies like they were cattle, but I had Barbies. I had Barbies. Knight Rider. Is that what? Or is it? Yeah, Knight Rider. Y'all remember those old shows from the 80s? Can we go back to like Magnum PI, the A Team, Airwolf, MacGyver? I miss those days. But I can't, recommend any more than Matt Morse, Morse TV. Go watch what he did a live on earlier today. It will basically answer every question you have and show you how this little regime is functioning just behind the wall with the aid of multiple officials from their area. This is a coordinated effort to basically save a political face by using their base as sacrificial lambs, basically, to create a diversion so they can deflect from the fraud and perhaps create some, negotiating leverage. And I just think that's inherently wrong in any way you go. And I don't know unless when they get found out, unless they back down. But I expect these stupid idiots to double down. So when they get found out, they're probably just going to amp it up because they're going to say that, well, this is it, go big or go home. And I expect it to get worse. But if we can continue to uncover this and actually identify and punish these people, they might understand. You can't do that. This is illegal. This is like a terrorist regime, and they should be charged as such. And been reading a lot of federal code lately, and they are in violation. The officials in Minneapolis are in violation of it. I think it's 10 Section 8. I have to pull it back up, and then I will post it. But you can see basically everyone's in violation of the law, and everybody's trying to handle them with kitty hands because they're volatile. They're emotional dynamite. And, trying not to create a bigger issue in the world. I'll watch it. So it's just sad. It's frustrating. You open up your Instagram lately, and there's a lot of stuff on a lot of these platforms that you can see how bad our society has turned when it's like someone just sent me a hidden message that every time they open up anything that's supposed to be social media, all they see is women in underwear. And yeah, I'm here to tell you, I don't know why that women work so hard to basically gain the respect they gain, because then they threw it right away. Just threw it right away. Just threw it right away. So now the only person that can basically treat women poorly is themselves, and they do it to such precision that it's making women all over the nation just very angry. Very angry. And I sit here and, I watched, there was a lady on Timcast, and I don't like Tim. I watch Tim because he gets people on that have different views, and I like to know what their views are. So I will watch him sometimes to see what the idiots are saying. That's just what I call them, the idiots. He had a woman on, it was last week. Literally every point she had to make, she had to Google. She knew nothing. She had no retention and could not recall anything immediately. She had to Google it and then read it from Google. But she thought she was a lawyer. And I just sat there and I thought, oh my God. And I did a live stream like a day later about how we, as women, we've lost the plot. We've become everything that we didn't want to become just because Now that we can do it freely, it seems like the thing to do. Excuse me? So you don't want to be perceived as a loose woman, but the moment you get freedom, the first thing you're going to do is create an OnlyFans. Okay. Do you know like the biggest employment right now for young women is an OnlyFans profile? Do you know that? Never in my life. Never in my life. But now y'all have heard me fuss about it forever. As soon as back in the day, there were always ways for women to try to avoid pregnancies or terminate. It's a sad thing, but some people think that way and they're that vicious. But when it became a social norm, not even a norm, but a flag of honor to where the number of times you've terminated pregnancy as a badge. I mean, what? They wave it like a flag, like it's something important. Oh, I've had 13 of these. Well, then you've been stupid 13 times. You told me that for 13 times you couldn't hold yourself accountable 13 times. So you're holding the life you create accountable. That's lovely. But when women became executioners of the next generation, free and clear executioners of the next generation, it changed something in here because women used to be the backbone of society. We're not anymore, ladies. We're not. Just call it like I see it. We're not anymore. Look at these Real Housewives bullcrap going on, and the biggest employer for young women is OnlyFans profile and social media where they're half dressed and doing questionable things. Sorry, ladies, we lost the plot long ago. Long ago. And I'm just saying, back in the day when they said people who voted had to own land to be vested in the nation, might have been something to that. Might have been something to that because a lot of women that own nothing but shoes and purses have really harebrained ideas that are affecting a lot of elections right now. And as a lady, I'm ashamed. Just gonna say it, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. So, and I've not met anyone that uses those parameters to justify their behavior. I'm an adult, I can do that. I've not met anyone that can give me any kind of argument that would make me see, okay, I understand why you're doing that. Because there's so many different choices where they could do something more beneficial with their life that requires less flesh. You know, I have very strong opinions. It took me almost 50 years to form them. But I'll listen to other people. But it's sad because when I go to these places and I try to see what they're saying and I try to understand them, all I see are petulant children crying and throwing tantrums that do not have any cognitive recall, do not have any cognitive retention. Everything has to be pulled up on Google. They don't know the area laws. They have to Google them. And then they don't know how they're applied. They don't know anything, but they think they know everything because they can pull it up in a little box. No, you don't know. If it's not in here, you don't own it. That's not your property. So you're just borrowing this. And it's not really borrowing intelligence because true intelligence is the application of knowledge. And if you're just trying to view it and read it, you're not applying it or understand its application. It's not true knowledge. So what are you packing around? Nothing. It's frustrating. I get frustrated. Used to be you grew up and you held yourself to a higher account of what you wanted to be to make the world a better place. Now you grow up and you just want to be what's going to fund your weird lifestyle, make you get more likes and hits on your algorithm. Y'all know how much I hate the freaking algorithm. And you don't care if you're getting good or bad attention as long as you're getting attention, because that attention basically funds you the same way, which has really screwed up something in our heads, y'all. This whole instant gratification and even bad attention is good attention. It's really foobarring. It's really foobarring with us psychologically. We're going to have to fix that. Well, the thing is, yeah, women have come too far to be disrespected, but it's only women disrespecting themselves. We don't allow anyone else to disrespect us, but boy, do we disrespect ourselves. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. We get mad when anybody else looks at us, but then we dress for other people. Don't tell me you dress for yourselves, lady. You don't put dental floss up your hind end for yourself. No, you don't. No, you don't. So it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. I just get sick when people are like, they will be out somewhere and be so proud of atrocities they've committed, and they don't even see that they're atrocities. They don't even see how they've hurt themselves, either by having repeat terminations of pregnancies that could in harm hurt themselves, and those are very dangerous. Those are not, those should not be just like same day, fly by night. I've had 13. Don't. No, they're dangerous for your bodies, women. They're dangerous. But when it becomes a badge of honor, I worry. I worry about the mental health of women these days. I worry a lot, and you're starting to see a lot of the based men be very, very standoffish and stoic and break away and kind of form this little group over here because they're like, we're just done with it. I agree, man. I'm done with it too. So if you don't understand, there's a faction of women that are like, done with it. We're standing over here too. Y'all can deal with them. We're over here in the corner, and we're not having that. And it's sad, but these people that are saying, no, we don't want to be part of this, and we're ashamed of this, they don't get any traction in the media. No, because we consume with our eyes first. And sadly, you can see that the consumption rate is based on hormones rather than intelligence. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with as a nation eventually, because that's just a long, slippery slope. You really like my accent. Appalachia for the win. I don't know. Coming from backwoods, working in state and federal jobs, seeing the different stages of society in between and how they all function and intermingle, but they also are very separate. I see a lot of different things going on in this world that probably other people haven't seen or haven't seen in such clarity. And I just don't think the people in these cities that are behaving this way have a lot of clarity. And I wish they would take a moment and really, really, really research and dig in emotionally to what they're trying to do, before they just let their hormones take over and their emotions take over. Because listen, your feelings are going to turn into felonies. I've said this 15,000 times, and you're going to have to watch yourself. And if you don't understand the law, you're going to violate it. You need to be educated. You need to, before you take on this role of some kind of activist, study the law. And if you really invest yourself in the law of your area, and you understand what's on file and what's not, you will understand it's such a sticky situation you don't want to get in it, because then you can't get out of it. But a lot of these people just don't care. They say it is like their whole little diatribe to basically go down in flames. And when is that a logical, good decision? I mean, I don't think that's a good decision. Do you? No, I don't wake up every day going, well, I want to show one person in the world, what this world's going to, even if it costs me a lot of my life. No, my life has a far greater value than that. I'm sorry. I'm not expendable for somebody else's political gain. I'm not expendable for somebody else's political pathway. No, and I'm not expendable for criminals that are violating children to stay free. No. And if you truly value life, you have to look at it, and you have to value yourself, and you have to look at the whole scheme of things. And protecting one person that has terminated the lives of multiple people and has a criminal record a mile long, that's just stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever. If they are criminals, they're in here illegally. That's a two-time criminal. It's two levels of criminality. And listen, past behavior predicts future behavior. So whatever you've done in the past, you're most likely going to do in the future. So if you've been running through countries taking people out, you're probably going to continue that. And I don't want you anywhere near me. I want you to go back so your home country can punish you and keep you, because you weren't supposed to be here. You would not have been accepted in. So it's really frustrating, when people are like, protect his human right. He set those away and defaulted on those the moment he took somebody else's life, the moment he started down this criminogenic pathway, the moment he violated the nation's borders. I'm sorry, but he is not any kind of productive member of society. Now, a lot of them here may not have, huge criminal natures, but they still violated the law to come into the nation. What pisses me off the most is you'll watch these little young rich kids out here and protest, but then when they want to take a vacation to wherever they go, then they'll get a passport. You hear my dog snoring? Luna, stop snoring. They'll get a passport. They'll book a flight. They won't go unless they have their passport and their IDs on them. They get checked at the airport to make sure they can come into the country. They're at the country and they behave while they're there because they don't want to get in any trouble so they can come back home. But when we ask the same of anyone else going to, want to come to our nation, holy heck no. And I find that stupid. I find that absolutely stupid. Oh yeah, I saw the salt things. Yeah, and yeah, it all it is I told y'all a long time ago. This side of things, they win their arguments with exhaustion. They don't have facts, evidentiary information. They don't have anything. They have no data, no facts, they have exhaustion. So they just keep dancing a circle around the subject until you're tired of dancing. And then they say, I won. You didn't win. You just exhausted your opponent because they just don't want to deal with you. They're doing the same thing to these companies. If we exhaust the companies, they'll change their perspective because they don't want to waste all their time on this. And it's really a low value, low IQ tactic to use because it doesn't really prove a point. It just is a time waster. So there's really no validity to what you're doing, whether you think there is or not. You're just making the company waste money. And so they don't really believe you if they change their policies. You just hurt them in the pocketbook. But y'all, that's how ludicrous these people are, that they'll take any kind of alliance they can get and they'll call it a win. And if we cave on these simple things, then we might as well cave on it all because they think everything's a win. And they get so amped up by even the smallest wins. They said they were buying ice scrapers at the Home Depot or whatever. It was freaking putty things. And I thought that's a putty knife. It's not even if you're going to try to be delinquent, at least try to get it correct because that was a putty knife, But this is the mentality of these people, y'all. It's just the mentality of these people, and we're stuck here. Yeah, the church service they interrupted was horrible. And then the federal judge, here's the kicker. He signed off on everybody else's warrant but wouldn't sign off on Don Lemon's. Does that show anybody else? Because Don Lemon did the exact same thing those other people did. He went in there and got into the faces and irritated those people just like the other people did. Only he had a microphone and a camera. He should be charged too because he's not an active journalist. And he basically planned with them. And this was an exercise in terrorism. But the federal judge, here's it is. The wife is lefty leaning, and she works for the Ellison man. And the Ellison man, has direct line to the judge. That's how they got out of that. So they're going to have to go around that now and go to a grand jury to try to get all that. So you just see the downfall of a lot of our laws when you see them finagle it, or you see like that judge. He should have been immediately off the stand to show that he would sign the warrants on those but not sign the warrant on that one because they all did the same things the same manner at the same time. So they're all guilty of the same thing, right? Not if you're a TV personality and you have pull. So that judge is compromised and should not be in that seat. So it's you just have to look at these things and be like, okay, I understand that now. And if we had more issues like this, we would see a lot more information on these judges. A lot of them would show their hands a lot quicker. So, but that's just where our nation is. I really hardly recommend you go watch the Matt Morris TV where he had the interview and had the lawyer that broke down the footage. And he said, I had my friends at group break this down. He said, like I was going to have to defend or convict this guy. And he said, this is what we found. Extremely enlightening for somebody who doesn't understand the law or understand what I was seeing when I looked at that. Because everybody was screaming at me that I was a horrible person and didn't understand. And I was like, no, but I understand the law and I understand how they're going to look at this and I understand where the man went wrong and that literally you start off on the wrong foot. Every step after that is wrong too. And that's legally how it's going to go. And that's how it's going to go. I hate to tell you, but that's how it's going to go. But now that they've, got the discharge on, like he's got it on his super zoom in, you can see when it racked and misfired. Um, the man was packing a hot gun and intervened in an area he didn't need to be in and caused an issue. Things can go wrong that quickly. Decisions can go south immediately. You better make good ones. So, but yeah, I got a lot of hate for just being like, they're not going to see it that way, because you're seeing it emotionally and there's no emotion here. You just have to look at what occurred, the events. They're not going to look at your emotions. They don't care if you're crying about it. But people don't understand that. Judges should be neutral. But, as human beings, it's very hard to not have a bias. And even if you're aware you have a bias, then you have a bias against your bias. So therefore, you're still biased. So really, there's no way to be unbiased. But the best thing you can do is at least be accountable. And if you think you've got an issue, just recuse yourself and say, let somebody else do this. That's all you have to do. Say, I'm going to step aside and get somebody else to do this. I don't think I can be impartial. That's a good judge. Yeah, I've seen a lot of mothers bring toddlers into these. And these places have been violent, so violent that they have turned the corner running after somebody and just seen somebody standing on the sidewalk and they've assumed that's the person that was running, and then they dogpile that person, start beating the crap out of them, and they're screaming, "But I'm one of you!" And they'll scream from the background. How do we know? They're vicious, just hyenas after the carcass is what they are. And what person would make yourself part of a group that can't even identify itself and will attack you in 5 seconds? I'm sorry. I don't, if you, that's as good as you got, I ain't gonna be nowhere around y'all, because y'all know, if it's that easy to be a target, I don't want to be anywhere near y'all, because you've not got this figured out. So, a lot of stuff to learn about what's going on in our society. Look at it. Go watch the Matt Morris, MORSA TV live he did earlier. Super enlightful. And when this video comes back up, put it down in the comments that stay here perpetually and talk about it. Let people know there are more people out here talking about this from a very logical standpoint than a super emotional standpoint. We got to bring logic back, guys. We got to bring logic back. Yeah, I don't know how those mothers that are taking their children into places that have already been deemed safety hazards for the law enforcement, I don't know how they're not getting charged with some kind of neglect or abuse or something like that, because they know exactly what's going on there, especially in these temperatures they've got up there right now. Take your children home, honey. There's more important things to do. But they're using them they're basically using them as shield, like that illegal that he was going everywhere with the 5-year-old boy. They say it's his son. I don't know. This Rent-A-Kid program is getting pretty big traction too. But anyway, and listen, if you're an American citizen and you're going to get arrested where you have children whether you're not, and then your children will be taken, to the other parent or where they need to go. So I don't know why it's such a big idea that they don't do the same when they take into custody illegals. Hello, same protocol. But everybody was trying to pass this off as they were detaining the child and using the child as bait. When what it was they were trying to take the man into custody. He basically dropped the kid and fled. Just left the 5-year-old in below freezing temperatures, just left the kid, not knowing if they would pick him up, take care of him. He just, my butt's most important. I'm dropping the kid and leaving. That's father of the year. And then people immediately said, they detained the child. They did not. The child at that point had to be placed with authorities so they could figure out what to do with it. So guess what? They're the authorities. So they were like, well, we've got custody of him until we know what we're supposed to do with him. Would they even try to return him to the mother? But because the father was hiding in the home, they could hear him screaming, "Don't you open that door." And the lady was terrified to open the door. I'm sorry. I'd be like, you can have this piece of trash, man. I want my kid. I'd be handing the man over to him with a bow on his head. You may have him. Give me my child. You would ever leave this kid anywhere else again, they won't find you next time. And it's just like, a lady, you're protecting a piece of trash that dropped your kid in freezing, temperatures. Didn't even care. Give a care. Ran for his whole hide. Didn't even think about that child. And then they try to pawn it off as they were detaining a child and using him as bait. Nothing further from the truth. They were as appalled at the man's behaviors as everybody else that's got a freaking 2 brain cells, they were appalled too. And it's just, you got to watch the media spin, and you have to sit back and you have to wait for all the information to come in, and then you have to look at it again. And you can see how they're manipulating it. It's like I said, when the vernacular changes, you change the word meaning, you change the vocabulary, you change the language, you change the way the law can be interpreted, you change the entire society, and it crumbles. We're in the middle of that, y'all. We're in the middle of that. Oh, I know you're agreeing with me. I just had to go on a tangent about that. Yeah, these mothers, they do better, ladies. I mean, these parents that do better, ladies, do better, do better. But if I had been the mother that the guy ran home to hide and didn't bring my kid, he wouldn't have had time to hide, because I would have packaged his butt with a bow on his head and sent him right out the door to the cops. Don't bring me back my kid. See what happens to you. Not gonna be good. So, a lot of ways to look at that. But as a parent, to flee and leave your child in freezing conditions, you're not somebody I want to live next to. Go ahead and send him away. And the reason why we see these behaviors in this population is because they're already criminogenic. I'm sorry, some of them might be decent people, but the majority of them are. You don't run away when you can. When it's so easy to run and hide, you don't choose to run and hide if you have nothing to hide. So probably 95% of these people are running from past behaviors, and they want to get away from whatever's following there. But a lot of them are so deep in their behaviors. A lot of them have a lot of issues. A lot of them have a lot of issues that are getting them, in these charges against minors and stuff. This is a mental issue, if we will. Okay. And so they come here and they're not fixed in any way, and they just perpetuate the same behavior. And people think they're going to come here and start anew. No, they're going to continue what they do, because a lot of them that come here have got ingrained issues that they're not working out. They're not being held accountable for. So they're going to continue them. This is why we need screening at the border. This is why we need to be in control of who enters. This is why we need to get them back out. And if they want to come back in, 6 months, they can do paperwork and say, okay, I screwed up and I want to come back in. There will be some that are permitted to come back in. And when they do it legally, they'll be permitted. There'll be some that are marked and never to be allowed again. And this is just called a border policy. And if you look at any other nation in the world, they all have border policies, and we abide by them willingly when we travel. We expect to adhere to their laws when we travel. We understand when we walk into their nation, we're in their country now. We had to have the appropriate paperwork to get on the plane to come here. We had to identify ourselves. They had to know we were coming. They got us on a list. And we're okay with that when we go everywhere around the world and go to see these rock concerts and these big, faraway destinations with the wonders of the world. We're okay. But when people come in our nation, we're just supposed to sit there and go, no, you can hide. You can hide for 20 years and commit all the crimes you want, and until your victim pool becomes so large, we won't know about you. No. 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 My nation has every right to do exactly what all the other nations do, and that is, we're going to screen you. And if we don't want you, you ain't going to be accepted, and you can go back. And this is just another level of asking for good behavior and people to basically police themselves. If you want to have this privilege, police yourself and become a good person so that you can roam across the globe at will. You can say, hey, I want to visit here, I want to go here, or maybe I want to move there, and you'll be accepted. Be a good person, you'll get there. That's all you got to do. But when you act criminologically, then I have to deduce that you're going to act criminologically again. Because you got away with it once, you're going to get away with it again. And a lot of the people that come here already have criminal histories, so they're already invested into that lifestyle. And it's insane to think that they're going to stop just because they got into another country, and especially a country that is not savvy to their behavior and their tactics. Because these people are not like our thugs. No. I've worked with some of the gang members that come from down south. Matter of fact, I had to protect one of the pregnant gang leaders' wives. She was a juvenile wife, mind you. I was charged with keeping her safe. And let me tell you what, when you have to learn everything about that gang in order to keep that person safe, you learn a lot of crap you don't want to learn. And you learn why we have razor wire at borders. Okay? And it's not even one of the worst gangs anymore. It was a big bad gang back in the day, but it's not even the worst now that we've had everybody, these people travel up and bring God knows what. Now they're like sixth or seventh on the list, so they're not even the bad gang anymore. So if that tells you anything, and why did we have to protect her? Because she had so much knowledge and had the heir to basically the gang throne, and she had basically given information on the gang to get out of a charge, and so they had basically put a hit on her life. And they wanted her and the child dead. They didn't want any loose strings, and so we were taxed with keeping her safe. We had to learn everything about that gang. It was terrifying. It was terrifying because even though she was 4,000 miles removed almost, very huge possibility that they were going to show up. Not a good feeling when you have to be trained in that capacity to tell you, well, your life is in danger too. But we're really worried about her. Well, gee, thanks for the concern. you know, but she was only 17 and she was already like 10 months pregnant. She didn't know what the crap she was getting into when she was young, and thought this gang was the family she needed. Do you know the type of people that gangs prey on? They're the type of people that want to belong but have nowhere to belong. Do you know what kind of people those normally grow up to be? A lot of antisocial issues that normally kind of merge into psychopathy. So you can see the kind of people it attracts. So and you don't get to leave these gangs, y'all. No. So that's why we don't want them taking control any more than they already have with the cartels and the drug running and stuff. And honestly, we have our own government to blame for that one. So y'all need to read up on that. Yeah, Europe's got a huge problem. Paris doesn't even look like Paris anymore, does it? Paris looks like a flea market in India or in Pakistan. It honestly doesn't it? And there's so many people that are criminals there that they will smack cameras. If you're a tourist and you're trying to take pictures, they'll smack the cameras out of your hand. They'll attack you. There's a lot of people trying to run scams over there and stealing money off of the tourists and stuff. And a lot of people are like, they've got like a travel disclaimer like, Paris is not it right now. Don't go. If you watch Angela Rose, she went to Paris back in the summer to talk about how bad it is. It didn't even look like Paris. Had they not told me they were in Paris, I would not have thought they were in Paris. Paris is not Paris anymore, y'all. Europe is not Europe anymore. The UK, Scotland, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking care of your own country first. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying, well, listen, for the health for our inhabitants, we have to restrict the number of people that come in here because we can't be overwhelmed. And no society can last through rapid changes that are in a 10-year frame. We're not built for that. And yet they've allowed it to occur in multiple countries across the globe. And I mean, ring the bell. It's been the same 1 to 2 groups of people that have done it all across the globe. So make your own deductions about what's going on there. Yeah, it did. It looked like a ghetto. It looked like a flea market ghetto. That's exactly what it looked like. Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, and if you think of Paris, and the show Emily in Paris, and they romanticize Paris, and people want to go there and feel this, envision this for themselves, and they get off the bus and all they hear is people screaming, $2, $1, $2, and attacking people with cameras and video, and I would want. I would want to tell the whole world and prep everybody to never go there again. But there being, the thing is every place on the globe that has a policy where you bring in people, and you give them some kind of financial asylum where they're paid for and put up, they're being overrun at the moment. And these countries are being bled dry. And if you look at the fraud that they found in America with where the funds are going, you could imagine where the funds are going. You can imagine this is an operation. It is happening probably all across the world, everywhere that they're flooding people in. It's growing too rapidly. Oversight can't be maintained. Programs need to grow with the population, but the oversight can't be maintained. More funding, but You see people that never get the money. The money never makes it back to the communities. Well, now we probably know why. So we're going to have to wait for this to go through, but we probably know why. And when the rest of the world sees what's going on in our nation, they're probably going to say, well, now we need to investigate, because it's probably the whole same game that's going all across the globe. I was wondering how the Royals were going to handle this, because that's a very real threat. But I will tell you that the UK Royals, the whole British government, they have a lot more power than you think, because a lot of people thinks that South America is the biggest like drug runner of the world, but it's actually the UK. Now you have to do a lot of back reading on this to understand, but for multiple centuries now, they have been weaponizing drug wars for political gain. And if you all have read a lot, they did it with the Chinese. And then when the Chinamen came to America, when the railroads were going, it was the Opium War. Well, they also did an Opium War in Australia and New Zealand. And they were trying to basically grab control and like create unrest so they could usurp more control. And it didn't hardly work in America, because we were a little bit too wild back then to be caged. But it went, it worked great in Australia and New Zealand, if you want to go read about it. But go read about the opium wars that were spawned from the UK government. It's just, you wonder what people's been up to for centuries. Well, boredom, they create these big diatribes of, we want to own this, get that, have power there, and all they do is have time to think, because they got plenty of money and everything else. So and I did not know that until I started researching. But opium only became weaponized when that faction of the globe understood what they could manipulate with it, and so they started dispersing it across the globe to hopefully break down society so that they could basically take over. It didn't hardly work in some places. So, and why do you think drugs are funneled into? It's not purely for the money. They like the money, but they don't really make the money they want. They get control, and they make the money through the control. They make even more money through the control, not through just the sale of drugs, through the control, the manipulation. And that's what they want. They want control, because they can devastate your population at any time, because they've turned your whole country into a bunch of addicts. So you have to do a lot of long-term reading to understand what's been going on in our world. Yeah, I'm your fear resonates with me as well. Yeah. Because that is the population they look to. Like I said, that brain fart age up to 24, you just don't know what's going on. You don't have a clue. You don't look at the world the right way, and you can be manipulated quite easily. And that seems to be that's the group they go for. And they'll sit and wait. They got time. They got plenty of time. Okay, well, I'm going to shut up because I need to make a little bit of dinner. And it's going to be cold the next few nights, so check on each other, make sure everybody's okay. These temperatures are going to be hurting. And make sure you go watch Matt Morse, Morse TV. He did a great live earlier that will answer basically every question you've ever had about what's going on in Minneapolis. So everyone should go watch it. Literally the entire hour and a half thing, you're learning something about every 30 seconds that makes your jaw drop. So it's a good watch. Yeah, I guess so. Probably. We've got stuff to eat. That I made meals and froze them so we could, if something happened with electricity, we could just thaw them on the wood stove and heat them. But I'm going to try to cook something a little bit. Y'all have a good night. Stay in touch with each other. Check on each other. If Booma goes live, try to go support him. But really, go watch the Matt Morse TV episode, and a lot of your questions will be answered. And pray for the people that are doing stupid things. That's about all we can do. Okay, I'll see you in a day or two when the weather shifts and I'm not on stove duty all night. So Well, thanks for checking in from Germany. I appreciate you. Y'all have a good evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.